on this week's episode.
It's almost like we are being forced to actually face this yin energy so that we could finally come back into balance of this yin yang energy.
Now, you were given the information right before Pluto went direct, how to break the cycle. The point is, it becomes like a private joke between you and the universe or you and God. And you're like,
Yes. Hello and welcome back, my cosmic family. This is Dr. Charlie Trin here at the Self Healing Journey channel. And again, I have here my co host, Black Lilith Moon. So, welcome back, Black Lilith Moon.
that's me. I might as well explain where this Lilith comes from because you are forgetting every time. So, Black Moon Lilith is essentially the shadow side. Maybe not my shadow side, maybe my shadow side, but the shadow side, like the pure yin energy. This is why one of my, I would say, one of my core skills is the ability to take you into the deepest depths of the darkness within you. You know what I'm saying? And navigate that side of you peacefully and with love and in a safe environment. I say safe environment, because what we think and everything, like when you're going into deep into spirituality and you realize the extent of the consciousness that is required of you, which is where you have to be conscious of like every thought, word, action, deed, like and then if you're doing shadow work, you're very aware that you're focusing on something that technically you shouldn't be focusing on. You know what I'm saying? And so I always felt like it wasn't a very safe space for me to go down there because of my own planetary alignments. Like I'll instantly manifest that, or I'll manifest that somewhere down the line. So then what God started doing is he started going with me and started saying, okay, it's a safe space, and showing me that that timeline that I'm in fear of doesn't exist. So I look at it and it's just darkness. So I can see, okay, no, right, he's correct. I can see nothing down that timeline. Okay, fine. And then it says that I can do this in a safe space. None of this will get manifested. This is a special place, a protected place. Do you know what I'm saying? And really anybody can do that. But I think it is necessary. Anyway, so to cut a long story short, that's where Lilith comes from. I would actually even associate Lilith with Pluto and Scorpio, the 8th house. And I guess since I've lived through so
Okay.
much death, I can also relate to Lilith. And she's got a lot of bad reputations out there. Like like some of the things that Lilith is known for is that she's known to be the baby killer. I think this is why I say like 8th house energy. And there's an old myth that she left God for the devil and went to go have like 1,000 babies with the devil. Like crazy as shit. Like this bitch was crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking shadow side to the core, pure yin energy. So yeah, I love that name. I just resonated with Lilith on a very deep level, especially because I feel like I go way back, you know.
Right?
Yes.
A lot of people you have her as like supposedly Adam's first wife, right? Or Adam's first
Yes, she
partner
was there
before
before
Eden.
Eve.
That's a very interesting.
She was there before Eve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she got around.
So
She got around.
yeah.
Uh,
So as a combination of our two energies, we're kind of having this deeper talk about, for me, it is the self-healing journey. So it is kind of like this personal journey of understanding ourselves and part of the collective. And for you, you are kind of like pushing us into going deeper into the repressed, the emotions that we may not want to be dealing with, but they are really important for us to deal to actually raise our vibration to find ourselves into a deeper understanding of our identity so that we're not actually only facing our own shadows, but rather accepting our shadows to become fully embodied of who we are.
accepting the shadow, exactly. So that's the point. She's such a dark character, and being a spiritual teacher, I just thought she was the complete counterbalance. Like, I feel like spiritual teacher is more yang energy. Um, so I wanted an element of yin as part of the picture, and she just fit the bill.
Yeah, it's a really nice timing that we are talking about this yin energy, because I just had I was at a yin yoga training this weekend, and they've asked me to support that yin training by bringing in the acupuncture yin development, understanding the meridians, and really talking about this yin element. And I do feel like we've talked about this a lot, about this idea that the spiritual energy of the feminine energy is rising. It's called like the yin is rising. So this idea that there was like a lot of yang energy of the doing in our culture, and now with this yin energy rising, it's almost like we are being forced to actually face this yin energy so that we could finally come back into balance of this yin yang energy. Yeah, so I think this episode today, let's go dive deeper into. I think we had kind of like dug a little bit into Pluto a few weeks back, but I think there's still this deeper conversation that we can have of Pluto, because um, we are still in retrograde, and let me remind myself the astrology here.
Pluto's already direct. It went direct on the 12th of October.
Yes, yeah, so Pluto has gone direct. So what that means is we're no longer going through the retrograde. We're not longer going through the reviewing of said shadow work. However, we are now in a time back where Pluto is moving forward, but is still back at 29 degrees Capricorn,
What
which is an energy that we experienced a few months back.
what I want to know is, did anything happen like the few days leading up to Pluto going direct? Now, my guess is that something, well, at least for me, happened in the physical world, but really the physical reality was one aspect of it, but the psychological realization, I would say, was even bigger. Like, in terms of, seeing where the danger lies in the future by what has just transpired, and then being able to rectify that path to not go
Yes.
down that dangerous road, because you can identify it from this point, from Pluto at 29. It showed you that point. Were you awake to see it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it showed it to you.
Right.
And then now, and it's something I feel like it's given you information of a risk way down the line. Probably, I would say, where it's really gonna, it'll probably test throughout Aquarius. Um, yeah, I don't know. But I feel like it's far into the future, many years into the future, where that lesson will do you well to have learnt it. Do you know what I'm saying? But I feel like that was the last opportunity
Yes.
to learn it. Next time,
Yes. I
it's
There's no next
tickets.
time, and because Pluto in Capricorn is a long way from now, so we've definitely
No,
passed a
no, no, no.
major
No, that's the point.
transit.
What I'm saying with next time being tickets, Pluto is done in Capricorn, so there's no more. Now you've got to face the consequences. Pluto in Aquarius. Do you know what I'm saying? Of those,
Yeah,
Pluto in
exactly.
Capricorn was like, you can say decisions. You can say those were the decisions, Pluto in Capricorn. Whereas Pluto in Aquarius, then like the execution of the decisions. I feel like I'm just making shit up right now, but I
Yes.
feel like I am uh,
It's called channeling sometimes.
channeling. Yes, I feel like it's just coming to me. But just so that anybody knows, I have not studied that in any textbook. What I just said. Yeah.
That's what's really beautiful about our interaction. I do think that we are definitely channeling and downloading information that we wouldn't have thought about separately, but together we are kind of triggering these ideas towards trying to explain and understand what is happening in the astrology.
Well, I think what's interesting is because Capricorn's got that control energy, and Pluto at 29, it's a surrendering. So I think we wouldn't have been able to
Yeah.
avoid that little situation right before Pluto went direct, right? I don't think that situation was avoidable, because it really just It's a surrendering and just be like, okay, fuck. Accepting the
Yeah.
shadow side.
So let's go into some examples here, right? So that we can kind of ground out the energy of what's happening. So for me, I had a few different events that I was planning to do right before the Pluto went direct. And so on the 13th, I had a market I was supposed to go to, have a booth, and really be able to, um, share my services, actually sell some sugarcane juice. And turned out that 8 people in an entire market canceled the day of the market, and the whole market was canceled, right? And to me, it was like, wow, very old Capricorn energy of like trying everybody to show up at a market to sell, and very much the old ways of doing things. And so when that market was canceled, I already showed up at the market. I was waiting to kind of prep for my booth, and they said they canceled it. So I hung out and spoke with the owner of the yoga studio there. And that's when we had a deeper conversation about them offering a yin yoga training the following week. And they were looking for an acupuncturist to be able to speak from the acupuncture side and to be able to explain the acupuncture and the yin meridians versus, that teacher could easily have done it herself, but being able to actually have someone of the descent of the knowledge and actually understanding this material to be able to actually share in the classroom setting for her training. And so I felt very connected that at that moment, I thought I was coming in for a different event, and yet like the universe is like, hey, actually this is how we're doing things now, is just come, open up the opportunity, and be able to represent more deeply your medicine rather than doing the whole let's sell ourselves at a market where everybody is kind of coming in and trying to see what services you're offering. And so that to me was very beautiful because it kind of showed this whole Pluto in Capricorn, what we assumed would happen, the control, the power of how we would actually connect with people, and then the universe is like, no, we're gonna do it a different way. And as long as I could easily have left, actually, when it got canceled, I could have said, oh man, the event is canceled. I did all this work to try to like do something, and it didn't happen. But what was opened to me was another door to actually be able to share my services in a much more deeper, impactful way.
That's what Pluto will do. I mean, it looks like, you could have just walked away and been like, "Ugh, why didn't anybody notify me?" Like whatever. But that turnaround and approaching it from a different perspective got you a result that I'm sure is much better than if you had just done the market. That's Pluto.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really for us also all to kind of pay attention to is, your expectations of what works and doesn't work will change quite a bit in this timeline of Pluto in Aquarius because Pluto in Capricorn is kind of like the initiator, the doing things, but we're so used to this like hardcore concept of like control of like you need to do it this way and everyone is doing it this way. And so it's an opportunity for all of us to actually experience new ways of doing things that used to not work before but now are most likely going to work if you allow it to come into your space and then go with the flow rather than like being upset that your expectations weren't met and now you're upset that what you thought was going to happen isn't going to happen.
Fine, bro. I was grumpy in the traffic department today because I had to go get my license. At first I was fine. I was jolly. The one girl was getting her license for the first time, so she was like a new driver. I mean, I'd been waiting there for quite a long time, but when she left, I was like, congratulations or whatever, because I mean, we're all just standing in line, right? It's like nobody's fault. But then, bro, I stood and I stood and I stood. I don't know. I was there in total for like an hour and a half. Anyway, we waiting in the line, and when I get to the front, they need my mother's ID. So I had to go get it from the car. So when I came back, I had to stand in the line again. Bro,
Oh
it
my
was it was that
goodness.
point where my mood shifted like that. Then this one guy who like was behind me went in front of me and he came and he was like, "Oh, sorry." And I was so angry I couldn't even look at him, because if I looked at him, my eyes alone would spit poison. My eyes alone would spit poison. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you just, it's out of your control, but at least, like, I didn't look at him. I at least didn't swear at him, or, you know, I just kept to myself and did the best as I could to get through the moment without causing a scene. You know? Aries rising. I mean,
That was today?
yes. I was not expecting it to be there an hour and a half. I was expecting to be there 15 minutes. It set my whole day backwards.
Yeah. Those DMV lines, man. It's pretty brutal. And I don't know how they are in Africa, but I didn't realize government paperwork is just as bad in Africa as it is here in the States.
It wasn't that, because actually, the point is, I'm in a very small little town. It's not even a town. There's not even a church here.
There's not even a church.
So that's how isolated it is. So, you're generally in and out of these places very fast because they're quite empty. But today, it seemed everybody was going there at the same time as me.
Is there a special transit? Is the moon moving somewhere that's like
Special transit.
extra?
Pluto's at 29, bitches. What are you talking about? No, seriously.
Yeah, but that's for a few days. That's for a few weeks.
What I'm saying is these, they have long-term profound consequences for your future, because the point is, this is karmic, right? Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. This is karmic, and it's basically you getting on that cycle again, or you breaking the cycle. Now, you were given the information right before Pluto went direct, how to break the cycle, how to break your
So
specific
so for
cycle.
you not to blow up, for you not to blow up at that guy was a reminder to not go back into the cycle.
Pluto's already direct. I'm talking now those moments right
Yeah.
before. I mean, yes, it's still talking to me now like that, but no, we're specifically talking about this moment right before Pluto went direct, because this is where it all boiled down to.
Yeah.
By me, it was on the 12th, which is a Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been about
That's
a
the
week
southern
now
hemisphere, huh?
since yeah, it's been a week now since Pluto has gone direct. I've definitely felt it. Things were moving along actually the last week compared to the week before that, which it felt like there were some uncertainties about things. So we're already halfway through.
So
We're
what I'm
moving.
saying,
Oh, we're in Scorpio season now. So it works really well that Pluto has gone direct. The sun is now moving into Scorpio. So that transformation energy is definitely, if anything, it's reactivated because the sun is in Scorpio now. So we're in Scorpio season.
bro, you talking about the sun in Scorpio when Pluto is forming a trine with Uranus and Neptune. I mean,
Yes.
this is the this
Yes.
is the be all and end all. This is the moment we were all born to live through, right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. Five
Yeah.
times from now until 2027, but it's still, like, you can say, within orb until 2029. Isn't that so weird? Because I planned out, like, just on my own, intuitively, my whole astrology life up until 2029, 2030. Remember, I told you that.
You've been tracking all your
Because
transits.
there's some major, I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
now Saturn conjunct Chiron conjunct, I don't know, whatever, Pluto conjunct Venus at the height of my chart. I mean, we're talking like Saturn just went retrograde on my sun, so it's going to go past my sun for like the third time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's some major, and this is the point. Here's something interesting that I noticed. I noticed a lot of people have planets in the vicinity of my Venus, which means what? there's a lot of people that are going to go through a Pluto transit of some sorts, bro, at about the same time as me, right before me. So the degrees are like 4, 5, 6. So I've known some people are sitting at 4, I'm sitting at 5, and some people are sitting at 6. I think even Kate Middleton has got one of her planets is at 6 degrees Aquarius. But anyway, I know quite a few people with planets like in that region. So 4, 5, 6. Now Pluto gets to 4 degrees Aquarius end of 2025. It does not get to 5 degrees Aquarius until 2026, bro. That's why I plotted that stuff out, bro. I plotted that stuff out because I was like, yo, I need to know when this shit is going to go down. Because, you know what I'm saying, bro? This is life
Yeah.
changing.
And this is kind of like the idea of, I guess, projections and predictions of your forecasting your chart to understand what kind of transits are coming up in alignment with you. That's going to be both tricky and possibly good, good for your changes. But yeah, this, for you, this definitely a lot. But I do think like a lot of people are going through a lot of changes in their own charts, collectively too, just because these are really big transits that's happening.
So, yeah, I mean, I think people should go have a look at their birth chart and leave us a comment to down below to let us know what is your planet that is sitting in the beginning of Aquarius.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what we're saying is check out your astrology chart, everybody. Check out if there's any major planets that are hanging out in the first 5, 6 degrees of Aquarius, right? So, Aquarius 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Let us
six
know because
degrees
you are
because
about to have a Pluto transit.
yeah, so what that means is Pluto will be transiting through those Aquarius nodes, and if you have, let's say, like a Mars in Aquarius, then that Pluto will hit your Mars in your natal chart, causing some kind of chain reaction for your personality. And what we're talking about is transformative energy connected to your Mars energy or any other planet. Like so, we're saying that for you, is going to be your Venus is going to be conjunct because your Venus is currently in Aquarius.
Yeah, it's at 5 degrees Aquarius. But
Yeah.
and it's in my 10th house. So the point is it's the most visible point of my chart. So everybody's going to see it.
Yeah. Got it. It's public facing.
But what I was going
Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
is, I have lived through the purest form of Pluto because I lived through the transit of Pluto through the 8th degree of my 8th house in Scorpio. It was that time that my brother died.
Yeah.
Was when
Yeah.
Pluto was
You shared
on the
some.
8th degree of the 8th house in Scorpio. 4 Pluto energies, bro. Compounded on top of one another.
Yeah.
That's insane. That wasn't even Pluto. That wasn't even Pluto conjunct Uranus. But if I had known astrology then, and I had seen Pluto is going to conjunct Uranus in my 8th house, I would have for sure thought that is the day I'm going to die. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it's a good thing. It's a good thing you didn't know astrology then, so that you wouldn't have thought that it was you that was dying.
Yeah. So that's pretty intense. That was when my uncle got shot on the farm, got assassinated.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but yeah, the point
Yeah.
is that with my brother, it was pure Pluto energy, pure Pluto energy. It was just interesting to note, like 8 Scorpio, Pluto 8. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't want
And I
to
think
scare
a lot of
anybody. I don't want to scare anybody because
yeah.
on the positive side, Pluto. For those of you that don't know, Pluto was conjunct. Transit Pluto was conjunct Venus in the 10th house of Susan Boyle when she went viral on UK Idols, Pop Idols.
Mm-hmm.
That was that reality singing TV show. Uh,
Yeah.
She went viral, Susan Boyle. Go check it out. When that woman sang on that stage and blew everybody away and it changed her life, Pluto was conjunct her Venus. Because, yeah, after
Oh,
that she
nice.
became an
Nice.
opera singer. I mean, she was singing. She became a singer. So she did exactly what she wanted to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like if you
yeah,
can face the shadow side, you can really get to know yourself and what is it that you want to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Facing the shadow side
yeah,
doesn't necessarily have to be um, only dark things. For me, it can also be hidden things. This is why 12th house energy and 8th house energy is so connected, because 12th house energy is actually hidden. But I still feel hidden because 8th house energy is secrets.
yeah. And that just means that just you're either conscious about it or not conscious about it, and that's why these transits are really powerful, and that's why we wanted to talk about how Pluto. It's not necessarily we might experience the more dark side of like losing someone, losing something, losing an old idea, or like even not being able to come to terms with like something that you've lost, like an old friend or old lifestyle. And a lot of us are usually kind of nervous about that because there's so much grief in losing what you know. However, there's so much power in allowing new things to come into your field as long as you're able to actually really grieve and mourn what's changed, right? Because a lot of times people get stuck and go, I wish things didn't change. COVID was like a big thing. When COVID happened, a lot of people wish that we could go back to what was considered normal, but actually COVID was the beginning of forcing us to change our lives so that we could take things into account more
But
clearly.
wishing
And
you
so I
could go
think
back, you're being called in to ask to surrender,
right, right.
for sure.
And that's the power of like Pluto and transformation because sometimes like when you lose everything is when you actually start to pay attention, right? And versus if you're too busy being sad that you've lost everything, you're not paying attention of the fact that you made space for new things to also come into your field. And it's not always easy to experience death. However, death comes in many forms. And I think it's really important to understand that this power in being able to see death in what it is transformation rather than a loss of something.
It's difficult telling that to somebody that's just lost a loved one, because I think a lot of people have just experienced that, because we just had an exit portal around these lunar eclipses, especially lunar eclipses, around these eclipses, especially around the first lunar eclipse, was
Hmm.
a particular exit portal for the souls. Uh, but the fact of the matter is, yeah, that's technically how you should look at it, but it's just not so easy when you're in the moment. Because the reality is, you still got to go through this shit. No matter what
Yeah.
woo-woo stories you want to bring about good old 5D.
you know you've come through a long way from from the day when you did lose your brother, and you're here and you really do a lot of your conversation. You talk a lot about how your brother's death was very important in who you are today. Even this ability of like being able to connect to spirits who have passed. I mean, to be able to talk to spirits, some people have to lose a loved one to be able to make the connection to the spirit realm of our loved ones. And so, some people could say, oh, it's a sad thing that you've lost someone, but there's gift in understanding that we haven't lost anyone. They're just be across the veil that makes it difficult for us to speak to them as if they're here, but we have tools and abilities to communicate to those who have passed on the other side. And whether or not it's you who are able to connect to the spirits or other people who are, I think those are very deep conversation that we should have, that like people people who pass are still available to communicate to us. And that's, I think, the power of Pluto too. I've had many conversation with people who
Well, the
have these
Pluto trine
beautiful.
Uranus trine Neptune, like a little grand
Yeah.
trine, all on its own.
Yes. But I found too like there's so much power in actually people who have planets in the eighth house that allows them to communicate to spirits to the
Yeah,
other
I've got
side,
Uranus in
right?
the
And
house.
so yeah, yeah, and I've run into multiple times recently where I've seen people who had like really strong placements in their eighth house, whether it's a Mars, whether it's a Jupiter, and so usually I ask them like, do you see or talk to spirits? And most of the time, I usually get someone who kind of like freaks out that I figured out that they have a secret that they can see spirits and they're trying not to tell
Well,
anyone
I
because
find
they're
Mars in
afraid
the
that,
eighth house can also be one that like argues with the spirits, or that make the spirits,
yes,
the angels,
right.
angry.
They're connected to the spirits, and how they choose to communicate with spirit is based on their zodiac theme for sure.
I found it hilarious the case where the girl had uh, Mars in the eighth house, and when I queried her about it, it eventually came out no, but she knows that she makes the angels angry, and she argues a lot for them
Yes.
as well. And I was like, oh, that is hilarious. Mars, bro, always arguing,
Yes.
always arguing.
Right, but and I see that with you too, with being an Aries rising, right? There is this deeper
Yeah,
conversation
bro.
where like there's this argument with spirit that you have
Well, and I can
that can
argue with
get,
you as well. But you're so patient with me. You just
yeah,
recognize this is
exact
Aries rising. What to do? What to do?
exactly. Yeah.
I love that about you, bro.
But
Thank you.
yeah, like for me, to me, I've been really tuning in to that Pluto Scorpio energy, just because in being in the wellness space today, I'm meeting so many different wellness and practitioners and healers. And for me, I love the occult. I love the hidden. I have Mars in Scorpio. And so a lot of times, as much as I love the regular healing of like massage or acupuncture or eating, drinking herbs, the stuff that people are like, hey, I see spirits and I don't know how to talk to them, always gets me excited. I don't necessarily know how to work with that energy, but when it does show up, I do feel like I am being initiated to understand that relationship of people who are able to see spirits and how they can actually heal what that is, so that they are not seeing it as a bad negative thing, but rather it is a positive gift that that person has the ability to be able to communicate to the other side. Because then I think this is where they can find jobs around funerals and be able to be conduits of people who have passed and be able to allow families to connect to those who have passed. And like, imagine going to a funeral and having like a psychic sitting there, and you can go to the psychic and get, I miss this person so much. I want to share these messages with them. And then having like the psychic goes, yes, they hear you and they want you to hear this, and be able to have this, last minute conversation with the ones who have passed, so you can kind of find some kind of semblance of peace in your heart to know that your loved ones have passed to another transition.
Yeah, because I guess the point is that that may or may not make it easier. It makes it a little bit easier, but it doesn't get you over the grief. I know that because I mean I've been communicating with my brother throughout this process, and uh, throughout my awakening journey, and yeah, I mean, so I know he's there. I understand, and I understand I have to let go of that pain, let go of that pain, to go into the next frequency. And certainly knowing that he's there does help. I mean, it makes it easier because, yes, I know, okay, he hasn't gone anywhere. I'm going to see him again, kind of. But, we are living in 3D, bro. We want the person in 3D because we want to touch them and hold them. And, okay, I can still smell him, so that's fine. But, hear their voice. And, yeah, so it it's still something to get over, even when you know that they're there, let alone if you don't even
Yeah.
know that they're there.
And this is kind of what I'm trying to say is Pluto in Capricorn moving to Pluto in Aquarius has this feel that we're no longer anchored to the Capricorn earthy materialistic sense, that we are moving to the Aquarius sense, and that Aquarius energy has spirit involved in it. And so we are moving from a third dimensional perspective of reality to a fifth dimensional perspective of reality, which still includes the physical senses, but we have this deeper access to souls beyond the veil. And I think that I really do believe we're gonna see way more contact of our loved ones on the other side, but this is where I think the beginning of contact with our ET brothers and sisters is going to happen. And so I think in general,
Disclosure.
yeah, in general, the entire gamut of communication will change because I think we are having these psychic abilities coming back online. And so, whether or not it is your spirit guides or whether or not it's an ET, we are going to start having these deeper communications with uh, beings beyond just the ones who are stuck in the 3D realm of our reality, right? And that's what I'm saying is like we're no longer just talking to people that we can see, touch, and hear and feel, but we are having communications with everything that is available to us in our conscious field. Like that's what I'm saying. I've been connected with animals and plants a lot more deeply lately compared to how I was, 10 years back, right? And so that's also this veil being released because like Pluto in Aquarius energy is like transforming the spiritual density itself so that we are able to access these non-physical beings again.
Oh, this
You
is
know, and
this is
that's
the
why,
grand trine, bro. Uranus and Neptune. Don't forget
yeah,
Uranus and Neptune right there to
yeah,
assist with
yes,
everything
yeah.
that you're exactly saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think it's astrology is really like set up and really
No, it's
poised to
mind blowing.
give us this opportunity. Yeah, this fifth dimensional like access. And that's why it's really exciting.
I already told you
Yeah.
before, Aquarius is acupuncture, okay? Just because it's that offbeat, alternative healing type thing. So Pluto there, okay? So here's the various ways just these two energies mixing can play out. Aquarius being from the acupuncture essence, Pluto being from uh, death, transformation, rebirth perspective, okay? It can completely, Pluto in Aquarius can completely kill acupuncture. It can be the death of acupuncture. Okay? Or acupuncture will be completely transformed and I would say like revived and become like completely mainstream. Now, Pluto in
Yes.
Aquarius for me is probably going to do both. I think it might first kill acupuncture and then it gets retransformed and comes out better than ever for whatever reason. The other way it can play out from a patient's perspective is either acupuncture will completely transform your health or acupuncture will kill you. So I just want to tell all those people out there, don't get yourself to a Chinese medicine doctor that's going to puncture your pneumothorax, bitches. Okay? Make sure your doctor knows what he is doing because that's the point. For me, you got to know with Pluto in Aquarius, you got to know who you're going to. You got that shit can kill you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So speaking of
Especially
which,
with
right, I do
Aquarius being an
think
air
that
sign. That for me is a needle puncturing a lung or something. You know what I'm saying?
that's true. So, with that said, what's really important about this conversation that we're having at acupuncture is we are actually having I want to say a a revisiting of cultural appropriation. And this is very important. We saw it with yoga, and we joke about this a lot too, is the yogification of the practice of yoga has been taken out of context, where asana, the movement part of yoga, is being called yoga. But yoga is these eight limbs of meditation, spirituality, doing the work, doing the mental, the awareness work. And the same thing that we're experiencing with traditional Chinese medicine right now is we have doctors who are Western doctors who are taking a weekend course to learn how to put needles in people. We have chiropractors that are being taught how to put needles in people, like it's called dry needling, and they're just putting needles in people, and they do not know the depth that we are taught to understand meridians, channels, organs, and the balance of the internal external body system. And so
5 years of
exactly,
postgraduate
we've
study.
studied for 5 years to understand this
And
medicine,
I'm
and here
even
we
taking
have
longer because I'm
doctors.
not studying it full time. So I'm doing at least like 6 or 7
Exactly.
years.
So I do think that this is where we could potentially see people who are using acupuncture in not the best way, right? In not the most honored form of this practice because it's getting simplified in a Western basic fundamentals. And that could be the part that could cause damage to patients. And that could be an opportunity, like there could be a way where Pluto in Aquarius goes, hey, see, acupuncture can hurt people. And we go, no, no, actually, people using acupuncture without proper training is actually what's hurting people. Acupuncture itself is not hurting people, it's just the people who are being trained. And so I do think that this is more closer to like what you're saying is it could have like a step backwards because people are trying to extract just the physical representation of acupuncture versus us doctors who have been studying for 5 years and connecting to the culture, recognizing like, no, you actually are not doing acupuncture correctly. And so we have to then um, bring back the ancient wisdom around the medicine so that we can use acupuncture correctly. And that could be then the beginning of then that doing really well. So I'm already seeing that there could be people who are misrepresenting acupuncture that could hurt the medicine, and then a lot of us who are trying to say no, actually the medicine is part of the culture, it's part of the mental development because we do talk about psychology and emotions in acupuncture and the spirit. There are five spiritual concepts in Chinese medicine that the West doesn't even take into account, right? So that's why actually it's very important that choose your doctor who's needling you very, very, very discerningly. Otherwise, you may get a doctor who doesn't know what they're doing with their needles and could puncture your lungs. So that is kind of that deeper conversation with this.
And we'll put a link down below where you can get hold of Dr. Charlier if you're in the Houston, Texas area, because he can now needle Dr. Charlier. Hey, we never told people
Yes.
why. We told them that was your asteroid name, but we never really explained. We were like, but it's Charlier. We said it's an asteroid name. That's how we got Dr. Charlier. But it also, we loved it because it made him more Charlier than other Charlies. And so
Yes,
he's
y'all.
actually the Charliest. But we'll stick with
Yeah.
Dr. Charlier.
Yo, like, so I know a few things about asteroids, but definitely Black Lilith Moon here introduced me to a whole slew of asteroids. And we were looking, we're like, does Charlie have an asteroid? She goes, yes. Actually, there's so many Charlie asteroids. So we looked into it and we found Charlier was an actual asteroid, and it was at the time we were looking for this, it was literally really well placed in my own chart, and we were like, okay, this is
No,
your
and the
asteroid
transiting
because
sun was conjunct Charlier in your natal chart. Remember?
yes,
The
exactly.
transiting sun was
Yes.
conjunct Charlier in your natal chart.
So it was basically shining a light at the
Yeah.
asteroid at the moment that we are looking to find an asteroid for me. So it just shows that sometimes astrology is always happening.
But Brew, that is what I'm saying. Whenever I do an astrology reading, I can see. It's like I'm looking down on myself, like a little version of me on the astrology chart, and I can see the conversation. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being able to like, yeah, see like that deeper conversation that's happening. That's how I see it too. When I see charts and I look at people's charts, conversations are starting to happen in my head. So a lot of times I try to quiet them down and try to communicate what they are trying to speak in my head. And that's kind of where a lot of times, and I've had so many people when I'm at events, there's like 20 people around and they're like, Charlie, do you do acupuncture astrology right now? And I go, I could, but there's like 20, 30 people around. Like the energies might get intercepted, and it's much harder to have a pure channeling of the astrology. So I really do appreciate doing both astrology and acupuncture one on one in a separate setting so that I can fully connect to you and connect to the energies that needs to come through that is speaking for both of us so that we're both healing from this medicine. And that's why like it's important not to ask for if someone's giving you an acupuncture needling during like an event, it's probably not going to be as powerful as if like no one's around, because you're picking up people's energy that's walking around too. Plus, if you have needles sticking out of you and people are walking around, it's probably not a very safe environment to feel like you have people walking around and there's needles sticking out of you.
No, and let me explain to everybody why, because this was one of my experiences during the course of my awakening. I was doing yoga the one day, and no, I wasn't high. Anybody who's thinking there, this is legit. That's what I'm saying. And I was in, I don't know, triangle pose, and I had to look up, and like if you saw I could see the energy like flowing into my hand and out of my hand. I saw you can say it's an energy exchange, but what I realized is it's just a continuous flow. It's continuous. You're
Hmm.
constantly absorbing the energy from your environment, and you are constantly giving energy to your environment. So yeah, you sitting there in needles, that's just getting in.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, and this is why we also learn qigong and pranic healing and reiki, because we are really messing with people's energetic forms. And so you know finding the right doctor that is putting needles in your energetic field is very important to find the right person. And that's why I think we're in a very interesting, very exciting transformation of acupuncture. I think personally, what I've been experiencing is that we're moving from the place where you're telling some person, "Hey, you have a problem? Go to this like Chinese guy in Chinatown, do a treatment with them, and you'll walk out and you'll be fine," which is great. And we've had many people who have these experiences, but a lot of time they go, "Wow, like that little Chinese guy did some magic. I have no idea what he did. He barely talked to me, but I feel better." And the conversation is usually, "Will you go back?" Maybe, if I have a really bad problem again. And so what's happened is we're not demystifying what is happening to the body. And so if we keep in this space of like it feels like magic, this is why people have believed that acupuncture is pseudoscience, because it's very hard to describe, or a lot of people are not being described what's happening in their auric field, in their energetic body. And so people think it's magic. That's why
I have heard
it's important for us to like
acupuncturists not
really.
even be able to describe, because I have seen patients ask about something, say like a yin deficiency, for instance, and Oaks are explaining what the yin deficiency is, but I could tell that they had no clue what they were saying. And
Yes.
I think the patient also must have gathered that.
Got confused. And that's what I'm saying. What's really important is to be able to describe what are the imbalances someone is experiencing without the traditional Chinese medicine wording, right? Because
Exactly,
yes, we can say
exactly,
yin deficiency, but yin deficiency is purely simply said you are fluid deficient. You just don't have enough fluid in the
exactly.
body.
That's a
And
that's
if
a
people understood,
pretty
"Oh, I
easy
understand the lack
explanation.
of fluids." Yeah, and so that's why I think right now we are in this opportunity to enhance how to describe and explain traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture to people with the right language, rather than to keep creating this very schism between the language of speaking what is happening in Chinese medicine versus actually being able to explain what's happening in our medicine.
Pluto, I've got my book here this time. Pluto is extremes of temperature, dryness, and moisture. So Pluto is like yin deficiency with dampness. Do you know what I'm
Wow,
saying?
that's the diabetic combo, right?
Oh, is it?
So yin deficiency is when the fluids within are being deficient and you don't have enough fluids to feel moisture inside. But then dampness, what we call dampness, is kind of like the cholesterol that's being built up in our body. So when we call dampness, what happens is the spleen is not able to digest the food, and so the food is being retained in the body. And so there was no way to describe the word cholesterol or cellulose or cellular, the extra fat that's being stored in our body. And so in traditional Chinese medicine, we call it dampness. And so what we see now with diabetes part two, or diabetes number two, is a lot of people are eating a lot
Right.
of foods that has processed sugars. That sugar causes the deficiency of fluid in the body, but makes all this fluid, this mass, this water retention, this cholesterol show up in our muscle layer, and that's why we see dampness, what we call dampness, which shows up as like a lot of water retention in the body. And so that is what we're describing as Pluto right now, which happens to be similar to diabetes part two.
Well, and it's also forming and expelling. So
Okay.
so something is going to be forming. It's also DNA and replication of the DNA. But I find it interesting, the forming and the expelling. Oh, and the mutating, because that's cancer cells right there. Well, the point is it doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
lead to death, because the thing I saw with my dad. My dad has obviously been through. I mean, he's currently living through a Pluto, uh, through his eighth house conjunction. Pluto transiting his eighth house, and really he's come so close to death. Virtually, he's been knocking on death's door like the whole year. Uh, to cut a long story short, he survived. But when I look at astrology, it really wasn't looking in his favor. You know what I'm saying? But when I looked at how it was actually manifesting in his life, he was knocking on death's door, but he had this energy around him that was quite transformational. Like anything around him would die, but he had the energy to almost like renew it, to transform it and renew it and give it new life. This is like the energy I was seeing around him, which was quite amazing. And what was so crazy is after his triple bypass that he had in June, when he was recovering in room 8. And I
Hmm.
thought, that even the number of transformation, and at that point in time I knew he was going to come out of that. Instead of he would die in that room, which is what I would usually have thought of if I saw him in number 8, but having already witnessed that it was transformative energy surrounding him, I knew he was going to transform and heal himself in that room and come out better than ever. And that's what happened. So Pluto has got that
Yeah, and
transformative, that renewal energy to it as well,
right.
if you just don't give up.
And it just shows that in Pluto and Scorpio, if you're not doing the deeper shadow work, then you could potentially die. And that's why, and I'm not saying all particular situation, but in this particular situation,
You're gonna die.
yeah, right. And if you were meant to die, there's no amount of shadow work you could do. I
Hey,
could see
listen here,
someone
don't
trying to
be
like
fear
do last
mongering, eh?
minute
Don't
shadow
be fear
work.
mongering.
Yes, exactly.
These energies, the ancient Babylonian astrology, with the current planetary alignment that's over the next few years, whatever, is saying that any spiritual or whatever metaphysical person or astrologer or whatever that uh, wants to put fear in the people is from the dark side. The astrology says automatically these people are from the dark side. In other words, what I gather from that prophecy is that there is in fact nothing to fear. This is what that tells me. You know what I'm saying? Because it tells me
Yeah,
that
yeah,
those
I
people are
agree.
lying. They're trying to make you scared for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So this is just something I'm very aware of, because the point is, we look at the planetary alignments and the stuff, all these cycles that are coming around, and you're talking about these are, all this, the World War I, World War II, the Civil War in the US, the French Revolution. I mean, all these wars cycles coming to an end like at the same time. The planetary alignment is scary. Do you know what I'm saying? It's on astrological paper, it's not looking good. you know So, but I mean, I guess we'll see. We haven't really lived through this ourselves before, and you know, also before I think we weren't as close, as like being in the age of Aquarius as we are at this. I mean, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius
Time.
was
Yeah.
248 years ago. So, I guess it's not a long time in a 26,000 year cycle, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But we it was the Renaissance day. It was a day of the Renaissance. So we're having another version of the Renaissance, but with a lot more cycles ending. And that's why this Renaissance that we're experiencing is way bigger than the one we experienced during the Italian Renaissance back with like Da Vinci and that crew. And that's why I think it's very exciting now that, and this is the deeper conversation of astrology that we would like to share today is don't go into the fear mongering of astrology. I think astrology sometimes will show very difficult patterns or patterns that could show up as really scary to people. But if you move into that space, you will most likely polarize the energies towards a much more fear based reality rather than actually seeing it out of love and experiencing that experience of the astrology rather than the more negatively tuned. That's why it's very important to see astrology more like a neutral tool, not it's telling you to think bad or to think good or to believe in bad or good, but rather it's just things are happening for changes, and it's up to you on how to understand and feel into those changes.
This little trine of Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. This is, well, it's either a complete rebellion against spirituality, or it is in fact a spiritual awakening. It points to some kind of, significant uh, change in perspective, or like change in the psyche, like bringing something that's invisible into the visible. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, maybe being able to, like you said, talk to entities on the other side, contacting the invisible for sure. I mean, we are about to live through very exciting times, bro.
Yes. That's why I tend to want to stress this more with people. If you have not done your astrology and learn about your natal chart with anyone, do it. I'm sure you've done it 10 years ago, but if you don't remember your astrology, do it again. It's very important. I've had so many people recently really tuning in to me and asking me to do a natal chart reading, and some of them have had a natal chart reading done before. And even then, they're like, oh, yeah, no one gave me any good news about my chart. And I'm like, what? Your chart should be empowering you. So I don't know how astrology was done back in the days, in the last couple of years, and even in my own Asian heritage, actually, a lot of times, um, the astrology always sounds very like scary to project your future into. Like this could happen to be, this could be bad, and half the time I've never experienced the negative side. If you understand the free reframe of what astrology really is, which is a tool to tell you what's happening, right? When the summer comes, when the winter comes, those are not bad experiences. There just is. There's just summer and there is winter. So when the summer comes and you want to do stuff, you want to dress, you know, in a certain way, that's just the energies. You don't have to be upset that the summer's here or sad that winter is here. Just like how the energies are happening right now. Just because a lot of people sometimes will be like, so are bad things coming up because astrology is doing this or that? I'm like, no, actually, it's an opportunity for you to go into shadow work. If not, then yeah, you may not make it. But if you are willing to do the shadow work, which is really going and reflecting on what's deeper
I mean,
within,
but it
then I
does
do
sound a
believe
little
that
bit
you have an
like fear money.
opportunity for
Like, if you
change.
don't do the work, bitches, you're going down. You're going down.
And it may not be you going down, but it will be like you losing a lot of things that you thought were important to
Hey,
you.
let me just tell you, uh, any Pisces out there, we've already lost everything, bro. Well, lost everything in one way or
No,
another.
I was gonna say to all Pisces out there, you've been tricked into believing that everything that is physical is real, versus you've always known that everything in your mind and in your heart and in your emotions was what was really real, and that is what's happening today,
Listen
which
to this
is
Virgo pretending he knows
reality.
what a Pisces is going through. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. The Neptune conjunct Sun. I just want to tell the Pisces out there that have just been through some rough times. If you think that you've lost everything and you're hating on life, you weren't paying attention, bro. Because Neptune conjunct Sun, God was talking to you and holding your hand throughout the process. He probably even gave you a warning, but you weren't listening. So start listening. With this Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune trine, that is a major opportunity to basically hear God talk to you. I feel like
Yeah.
that's each one being given the vision of their heart, and then being told now is the time to execute. Right now, right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
it's an intense alignment, but it's, in terms of the beautiful possibilities, like the nice energies related to those planets, um, those possibilities truly are endless and beautiful. It's almost like a direct telephone line set up between you and God. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
him broadcasting your heart's greatest desires, and then you going off and doing that. And then while you're doing that, you realize what co-creation is. But only after you've been able to receive the vision from him can you imagine what it is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But I think this is an amazing time where people can start to see stuff like that and start to understand. Maybe that's the point, bro. Maybe with that trine, people start to understand me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Sure.
My
Sure.
conversation is
I,
not
I
like
I see that.
Latin.
So the Pisces will feel better because people finally understand them, because they finally see the
No,
part
I'm
of
just
you
talking about
that.
me now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Because
so yeah, it's
everybody.
almost like
I mean, you are one of the people that have to sometimes translate for me to other people because they don't know what I'm saying.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
But
I
and that's
get. The
because
point is, I
you're
get that
using
a lot.
astrology.
Huh?
Yeah, and I think it's because you're using astrology to explain what you're experiencing, and astrology has that
It
language.
is astrology, but this was actually happening even before astrology, just because of all my phrases.
Right, that's what I'm saying is astrology gave you the definition and language to explain what you were experiencing, but before you were using astrology, you were still using other language to explain that, but maybe no one could understand you. So the fact that you are using astrology to explain that allows me to understand you, because your that language of astrology is what we have in common, and astrology does explain spirituality a lot better than the English language.
For sure. Especially because I find it with astrology, like sometimes you'll be reading your chart, for instance, and or even looking at planets or in whatever form it speaks to you. The point is, it becomes like a private joke between you and the universe or you and God. And you're like,
Yes.
so that's what I love about astrology. Like the little private, what seem to be insignificant jokes, and they are insignificant jokes, but it's just silly little, the universe just poking you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I do believe that, like, the universe is always having a conversation with you. It's whether or not you are paying attention to the talk back, right? The responses of the universe once you do ask and talk. And astrology tends to make that more obvious, so that if you don't get it, you can look at the astrology and kind of understand the themes that are happening, rather than what's naturally happening. Sometimes you don't have an inclination. Wait, what's going on? What are energies are happening that's making me think or reframe my thoughts? And sometimes you look at astrology and you go, oh, okay, I can understand why my thoughts are being guided to be much more in tune with my feminine side, or my logic side, or my grounded earth side.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I've got all sides running through my head at the same time at all moments.
Yes, and I hear it's because Pisces is the culmination of all 11 signs.
The highway is both ways in my mind.
Like the fish swimming opposite each other
Yeah.
in Pisces.
You still pointed that out to me the one day. Because I don't normally do like my readings aren't like birth chart readings. I primarily focus on like current transits, and when I say even current transits, uh, I don't like to do transits of like what your sun is doing or what your Mercury is doing or whatever, unless I'm taking into account the bigger planets. I want to know what the bigger planets are doing in your chart, because this is really the, you can say, the skeleton of your life. you know um, so that would be very much what I would look at, and that's why I'm saying with the Pisces that it just finished a Neptune transit now. If you think that it's all over, you're not listening to God. Go back to the go back to the drawing board. Aries, Libras, Cancers, and Capricorns. You oaks are just about to be let off the hook when Pluto enters Aquarius. Then you've done your time.
Yeah,
You've done your
yeah,
time.
yeah. I
Uh,
agree. Yeah.
I think there's truly magical. This trine can bring truly magical things, and it's going to last until 2027, because it will be exact 5 times, all the way up until 2027. But then it will still be within orb up until 2029.
So thank you everybody for this great discussion around Pluto, death, and all kinds of really
Pluto
fun
and
topics
death,
today.
and all the threats about if you don't do your shadow work, you're done for. You're done
Yes,
for.
do your shadow work, or Black Lilith Moon will come
Hey,
to your
no.
house to make you do shadow work.
Hey, you can call me anytime for to help you through shadow work. That's my speciality. Shadow work, which I'll do with an astrology reading. I don't do them separately. They're one and the same situation for me. But really, this time is all about, conscious living, I would say. Pluto in Aquarius. It's about conscious living, um, really being within yourself, because what I understand about this downloading of the vision of your heart and executing it is the same as that alien message that came through the UK broadcast in the 1970s, where they were speaking about the Great Awakening. Do you remember that? They were very like that message. You can hear they're saying the answer lies within you. And I think this is a pretty critical time where that answer can be given to you. And if you're not listening, you're going to miss out. And I think it will cost you some joy in the future, to be fair. This is not fear mongering. This is just an observation of the law of cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
important that
yeah.
you are able to listen to that voice inside of you right now. And I think, that sometimes requires us just to switch off a little bit, uh, and have
Mm-hmm.
some quiet time. Aquarius is an energy of air, so let the air just be there without anything else filling it. No other radio waves, whatever. Maybe with the Uranus Neptune trine, you can maybe put on a little bit of music, but every now and then. But you do definitely need, I would suggest, some stillness on a daily basis, to start hearing the answers.
I agree. I agree. So thank you very much, everyone. You guys have a beautiful day, and until next time.
Until next time.